When we last talked about Lori Vallow, it was after one of her recent hearings for the current trial, where she was dressed like an extra in Flashdance and acting as her own attorney. In 2021, Lori Vallow was indicted by a grand jury in Maricopa County, Arizona, on one count of conspiracy to commit first degree you know what in the death of her fourth husband, Charles Vallow. I'm going to give you one example that I feel will most succinctly explain what went on here. Lori had become convinced. Well, first of all, Lori had a new boyfriend. And together they became convinced that Charles Vallow, who by all accounts was an exceptional guy, had become taken over by a dark entity named Ned Schneider, and that Lori, a recently licensed deity, had to destroy him. So, if you're looking for something that makes sense here, look elsewhere. And in order to most economically give you an idea of what Laurie's character is like, along with just a small piece of the only circumstantial evidence against her, and her character and the evidence, of course, are closely intertwined, I'm going to show you this text. This is a text that Laurie sent Charles's two sons from a previous marriage immediately after his death. So, you get it. It's interesting because there have been a lot of questions about this case and why it's being pursued legally, since Lori has already been sentenced to life in prison for the death of her two children and a couple other people. And the reason is, of course, that we live in a society where ideally one should be held accountable and punished for every crime that they commit. It doesn't always happen, but it's happening here. This trial started on Monday, April 7th, 2025. And the first 2 days were a little dry, I'm not going to lie. Now, I know that trials are not, they're not entertainment. I'm not giving it like a bad review. I'm just saying that for those of us who have been waiting for this trial and who watched the last few trials on this case and are familiar with it, this is not going to be one of those trials where the any evidence is going to be shown that's going to be a real bombshell, really. We're pretty familiar with what went on here. So the first 2 days were and also they were slow going, partly because of what I just said, and partly because Laurie insisted upon questioning all of the expert witnesses ad nauseum for no reason. I mean, she was doing the classic bad defense, guilty defendant line of questioning where, was kind of basically implying that a thorough investigation was not done and many things were overlooked. She had one of the investigators on the stand for what seemed like forever, asking him if he knew the fabric content of the shirt that Charles was wearing when he was killed. So there you go. But on the Wednesday, April 9th, we got our first very interesting witness. And this was a woman named Nancy Jo Hancock. And Nancy Jo Hancock had gone on a date with Charles Vallow the night before he died. It became clear immediately to me that Charles had understandably gone in a different direction this time, because Nancy Jo Hancock is a raven-haired beauty with hoop earrings who owns her own business and has the voice of a full-grown adult and has never murdered anyone. So, and she, well, of course, was a witness for the state, and the line of questioning was kind of, she talked about how they got to know each other before their one and only date, and what they discussed on their date, what they did. They had spent a lot of time together. They had really developed certainly a friendship, and she liked him very much. She said that she was impressed with how kindly he spoke about Lori, his soon-to-be ex-wife, considering how crazy she sounded. And she said that after the date, she thought that he ghosted her because he didn't call her or text her or anything. And she was really confused by it because, like I said, if nothing else, they had developed a friendship, she thought. It wasn't until she Googled it a couple months later that she found out, what happened, which I can't even imagine. That must be even more traumatizing than we think. So, of course, Lori had to cross. And I'll say this, Lori, I feel, this is my personal opinion, uneducated personal opinion, that Lori should have chosen one. She should have either insisted upon going as Lori Daybell or insisted upon calling Charles her husband, because the two are not necessary. It's not a good look if anyone puts the pieces together, and it's just, stop it, Lori. So she starts questioning this woman, and she asks, the line of questioning went a little something like this. Did you know my husband was married when you dated him, when you went on a date with him? Do you always date married men? Which is a lot of nerve coming from this one. But you see, Nancy Joe wasn't having it. And, I mean, she answers the questions. And Lori also, Lori is really poorly behaved. And I was surprised. I gave her more credit than she deserves, clearly. She would ask her questions and then make a snide remark afterwards. And she got warned about this eventually. Like, don't do that. She said she wouldn't. She didn't on this particular continuation of the cross. And the thing is that eventually Nancy Joe just kind of put her in her place. And it went on for a little while. And, but this was my favorite.
So are you trying to tell me and this jury that you went on one date with my husband and he told you all the details of our lives?
I'm telling you the truth, and that's what I know.
So you spent your whole date getting to know each other, talking about me?
Don't flatter yourself. No, we did not spend the whole time talking about you.
Particularly good for Lori, who really does flatter herself, it seems. And a lot of Lori's questions in general, they had a me quality to them that I can't really explain. It was partly the questions, partly the wording. Not over the top me, not like, did you like the outfit I wore when you saw me last? But it's had that vibe. So after Nancy Joe, I believe, we had a woman who Lori had been friends with, this very nice woman who talked about how terrifying and horrible she realized Lori's religious beliefs were. And on Thursday, April 10th, we had Adam Cox. And Adam Cox is Lori's sane brother, who was friendly with Charles Vallow and had become, much like Charles Vallow, very concerned about Lori's religious beliefs and delusions. And they were planning an intervention. So his testimony was very impactful, very bad for Lori. And when because he talked about her religious delusions and everything that went on there. And, this was being planned the day before Charles Vallow happened to be killed in self-defense by her other brother, Alex Cox, their hitman. The one who did all the dirty work for Lori and Chad, because Chad is useless. So Lori, of course, cross-examined him, and she started out by saying, do you remember the last time you saw me? Which is, again, sounded very me. And he said, no. And she said, well, and I feel like she may have actually gotten this from John Pryor, if she saw that Watch I Have Mad and she was able to watch by that trial. I don't know. But it's also a classic thing that especially defense attorneys do, I think. She was like, well, I don't know, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago. And he was like, I don't know. And what's funny is there's something about this cross, that this question and answer between them, that really had the feel of a brother and sister. Like, I almost expected him to just be like, Lori, shut up. I said I don't know, So he's like, I don't know. It was a while. And at first I thought, okay, well, she's trying to establish the fact that they haven't seen each other for so long, and they hadn't seen each other even then for so long. They weren't really involved in each other's lives. How would he know what she was thinking and doing? But then she flipped it because she said to him, "Don't you remember when we saw each other? Did I make my green chili enchiladas?" And he was like, I don't know. And she took umbrage at this. She said, "You don't remember my green chili enchiladas that I made every time the family got together, like 10 times a year?"
When was the last time you saw me?
I don't recall.
So, has it been a year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, 8 years? Okay, so you think that was that time in 2018?
I think so.
Okay. And were we eating my green chili chicken enchiladas?
Do not remember that.
You do not remember that?
Nope.
Is that what I made every time we had a family get together, which was like 10 times a year?
I don't remember that.
Okay.
Couple things. First of all, I feel like 10 times a year is a lot for a big family to all get together, but I don't have a big family, so maybe I'm wrong. And also, no one's going to remember your green chili enchiladas, Lori, because we all know that you use ranch dressing as hot sauce, so just stop it. And he said, "I don't remember them," and eventually it came to an end, and nothing was really accomplished except for Lori made herself look a little worse. After Adam, we had two investigators who I didn't pay attention to the first one. I don't know. Sorry. I mean, you can watch the trial, but you're not going to hear it from me because I don't remember what went on there. And then the next one talked for about an hour and a half just to let us know that they were not able to get any successful fingerprints off the bat that was supposedly being used against Alex Cox and that forced him to defend himself. It was allegedly being used by Charles Vallow against Alex Cox. After she was done telling us nothing, and Lori did not cross either one of them, I don't believe. We then got Kay Woodcock, and Kay Woodcock is Charles Vallow's sister and J.J. Vallow's grandmother. And people who have followed this case and saw the past trials certainly know of Kay Woodcock, because Kay Woodcock has been very present and very active in this case. She is the person who became the beneficiary of Charles Vallow's life insurance, unbeknownst to Lori Vallow. And guess what? She was not happy when she found that out. So there's been kind of a bad blood because of that on Lori's side. Kay obviously does not like Lori very much either. For valid reasons. So Kay is a very kind of stoic, strong woman, but comes off as also a very nice woman. And her testimony was not good for Lori at all. She, of course, was a witness for the state. And the questions really showed Lori to be a liar. She kind of straightened up whether or not Charles was a righty or lefty, and when pitching and hitting and that kind of thing, because he'd been a semi-professional ball player. And, just certain things Lori had said, like she said that her and Charles raised 5 children together, but his 2 sons from a prior marriage were already adults by then, or young adults. And so she cleared that up. She wasn't raising 5 kids. At no point was she doing that. And a few other things about what she really did and did not do, and other things she did. And Lori, for a minute there, I thought maybe Lori's not going to cross. But I know Lori well enough to know. I mean, I definitely gave her more credit in a lot of things, but I figured she's not going to be able to help herself for whatever reason. And I think in Lori's mind, the years have been building, and she's been thinking, I'm going to get her. Which is cuckoo. But she didn't get her. The questioning did not last long, and Kay was like a sniper.
And you weren't really aware of the events that happened that morning, were you?
The morning of his murder?
Of July 11th?
No, I wasn't.
Okay.
Because you didn't tell me.
Miss Woodcock, did you see or hear or personally witness me conspire with Alex Cox to kill my husband, Charles Vallow?
No, but I saw a ton of evidence that did.
Thank you. No further questions.
One of the interesting things about Lori's legal wranglings is that she seems to be under the impression that unless you have actually physically been witnessed or heard committing a crime, you cannot be held responsible for it. Because she has asked every even slightly viable witness, did you see with your own eyes or hear with your own ears me committing this crime? And that's not how it works. She knows that's not how it works. Then also, what else are they supposed to hear and see with, Lori, if not their ears and their eyes? Stop wasting these people's time. Thank you for watching. If you're watching this trial, let me know what you're thinking about it down below. If you're not, I hope you're not watching this video. And I will see you very soon. Bye.